100% satisfaction guaranteed. Have you ever seen that marketing? Well, I'm going to talk about why satisfying your customers is not enough and why the customer experience is more important than ever. G'day, Ben here, co-founder of Max My Profit. We're all about helping you build the business that you imagine. Now, imagine that you would love to have a business where your customers were happy, and in fact, so happy that they kept coming back. Not only did they keep coming back, but they also kept bringing their friends back to buy from you as well. It's one of the secrets to growing an amazing business, yet so many people miss the mark. Now, I can guarantee that you have spent a lot of time and energy perfecting your product, your service, your offering, whatever it is that you do, but I wonder whether or not you've spent the amount of time that you've spent on that on customer experience. Because let me tell you, all you've got to do is read a few reviews, whether it's on TripAdvisor, it could be Google reviews, Facebook reviews. Just read a few reviews and you'll see that customers really what they talk about when they have a good when they leave a good review is having a good experience. When they leave a bad review, it's having a bad experience. So that tells us that it's really vital that we get our customer experience right. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about 7 things that you can do in your business to make sure that you are improving your customer experience. Now, the first thing that I recommend is that you read reviews, not just your own reviews, but reviews of your competitors or even reviews of people that may deal with your target market, just to see what it is that your ideal customer is saying about the experiences that they had. Now, if you think there's an establishment or a business or something that is a competitor to you nearby that is doing a really good job and you're not exactly sure what it is that they're doing, read their reviews, because the customers will tell you what their secret sauce is, and that will help you understand exactly what it is that you need to do to provide a more amazing customer experience and get those people really stoked about your business as well. Now, the next thing I want to quickly touch on is first impressions. You only get one first impression. You better make sure it's a damn good one. Otherwise, you're going to mess things up pretty royally. So just think about what it is that you do when a customer first comes into contact with your business. Now, I know that I was in a cafe. In fact, on the weekend, I was away a couple of hours away from Sydney for the weekend away. I went into a cafe and I stood there where it said, please wait here to be seated, for a good 4 or 5 minutes. And the staff there at that particular establishment were walking around me, they were walking near me, they were doing things at the counter right near me, and not once did they make eye contact, not once did they say, hey, we're busy, we'll be with you in a second. They never even acknowledged me. And I think about that, that was my first impression. It's the thing that I'm telling you about right now, is that is the first impression that I had when I went to that particular establishment. So you want to make sure that you have a really solid process that when a customer contacts you, even if you're busy and you can't get to them straight away, that you at least acknowledge them and that you give them a positive experience. Now, what that person could have done is they could have said, here's a couple of menus, just have a quick look at that and I'll be with you shortly to get you seated. So they could have given us something straight away. Something like that would have been very, very simple to do. And our first experience would have been, wow, that's amazing. Now, in contrast, we went to another cafe the next morning, and as we got seated, the guy that seated us straight away said, did you want a coffee to get you started? And we said yes, because coffee is not something you typically have to look at a menu to work out. You all know what it is you like. And this guy was smart enough to know that that's what we probably wanted that time in the morning first up. So he said, do you want a coffee to get you started? We said yes, here's what we want. And off he went. And before we knew it, we had coffees on our table and we were relaxing and enjoying ourselves. Now, that's also a good strategy because it's a likelihood that if we finish that coffee quickly, we might get another one or another drink, and that's going to increase his average dollar sale as well. So not only is he making us happy with a good first impression, but he's also looking after his bottom line. Now, the third thing I want to talk about is what I call familiarity. And one of the problems you've got is you do what it is you do every single day of the week. Now, the less often that a customer does the thing that you do. So, for example, if you are a collision repairer, for example, well, you do it every single day, but most people don't get their car repaired very often. If you are selling someone's house for them, once again, it's something you do every day, but it's something that people don't do very often. So what I ask you to do is walk a mile in the customer's shoes. Think about what it is that they're currently feeling, what emotions they might be going through and what they're expecting, and then try and make sure that your experience is taking that in mind. Because it's very important that you don't assume anything. It's very easy for you just to go, oh, it's just another customer, I've got to sell a house or I've got to fix a car or whatever it is that you do. But for that customer, it may be quite an anxious thing, might be quite nerve-wracking. For example, let's say you're a dentist that does root canal therapy, for example, an endodontist, I think they call them. Well, you do it every single day of the week, but for that customer, it might be the first time in their entire life that they've had root canal therapy. So what can you do to make that customer's experience much better by thinking about what it is they're going through? So walk a mile in the customer's shoes. Now that's a great segue, and it leads me on to my fourth point, which is assume absolutely nothing, and assume your customer knows nothing, because otherwise, if you make assumptions, that's going to really destroy the experience for your customer if you deliver the wrong thing. Okay, if you make an assumption and you're wrong and you deliver the wrong experience, then you're going to just destroy their experience, and of course that's going to lead to a negative review, which you don't want, right? What you want is positive people, positive reviews, and customers coming back. So assume nothing, and the best way to make sure that you assume nothing is to ask lots of questions. So you can get a pen right now if you want and write this down, but a little script that I've taught many people over the last 20 years is to ask, just so I can help you best, would it be okay if I ask you a few questions? Now, if you ask that question, most people will say yes. In fact, I don't think anybody would say no to that. So you say, just so I can help you best, would it be okay if I ask you a few questions? And then you can start with asking open-ended questions to discover exactly what it is that your customer wants. Now, open-ended questions start with who, what, where, when, why, and how. And they're questions that cannot be asked with a yes or no typically, and that'll allow you to gather information about what the customer wants. So you might be asking them something like, what were you hoping that I could help you with? You might be asking them like, how long has this problem been, or have you had this problem? What else have you done to try and fix it? Who else would you like to be involved in this process? All these type of questions allow you to gather information that you may or may not already think you know, okay? But like I said, assumptions are very dangerous. You might have heard of the terminology, if you assume something, the risk is that you make an ass of you and me, okay? You put the line after the ASS, and that's what assume stands for, right? So don't assume anything when it comes to customer service. Now, my fifth tip for you when it comes to creating an amazing customer experience is to set KPIs, what we call key performance indicators. Now, these are things that'll help you track how you're going. Now, one of those things could be things like looking at your reviews and see how many 5-star or 4 and above star reviews that you've got. You can also set KPIs as to how many customers get contacted or follow-up calls, or what sort of things are getting done. So if you've got a trigger point in your business where it's important for a customer to get a certain experience, you could set a KPI over how well that's being done or how quickly it is being done. Now, very, very famous hamburger store in the world that you've probably been to, they have drive-thrus all over the place, and if you've ever looked from inside, if you've gone inside of the counter of those stores and you look above the drive-thru window, they have a clock. I think it's typically on a computer screen now, but after 59 seconds it turns red, and they know that to give the best customer experience in the drive-thru, people are coming through the drive-thru because they want their product quickly, and they know that if they can get it delivered within a minute, that you're going to be happier. And so what happens is, after each order is completed, the clock sets and the timer starts, and the staff member can see that. Now, if they're logged on at that drive-thru window, their KPIs are being measured. Every time they click that button, that clock starts and it measures it, and I'm sure that the manager is able to get a report to see how well that person delivered at the drive-thru window. Now, you may not have that kind of technology in your business, but I would certainly set KPIs around things that are very vital to customer experience. So for example, how quickly you get a quote back to a customer. So if you get an inquiry, how quickly do we get the quote back? If the phone rings, how quickly do we answer it? If a customer has a complaint, how quickly do we solve it? All of those things are great KPIs that will determine whether or not you're delivering a great customer experience. So number 6 on my list is training, and I see a lot of businesses do a lot of training around getting their product or service delivery right, but when it comes to customer experience, they really lack the effort when it comes to training their team how to look after a customer. Now, what I'm talking about is in particular is customer interactions, things like when a customer has a complaint. Are you training your team on how to deal with that customer in that situation? When maybe training on how to greet a customer. So when a customer comes into your store or when a customer rings up your business, Do you have training on how to greet that customer? Do you have an incoming phone call script, like an incoming phone script? Very important. Training about how to interact with customers on social media. Think about this. Think about what it is that your customer is probably more likely to complain about if they're not happy, and train your team on overcoming those things. Put some time and effort into training around the customer experience, and you'll find that you'll get a better result. Now, number 7 on my list, and my final tip for today, is to identify what I call your moments of truth in your business. Now, there are points in your business where it is really important that your customer experience is second to none. For example, when a customer makes a complaint, that is a moment of truth, how that is handled. And just recently, my oven was cleaned at home by some cleaners, and they had a trainee on the job, and they let the I don't know, that's caustic soda stuff that they clean the ovens with drip onto our wooden floor, and it ate through the polish on the floor and into the timber. Now, this was a moment of truth. This could have been a really an ugly situation, or a situation that they turned into that created a loyal customer for life, which is what they did. So in this instance, they said, look, we know we're at fault. We are going to get somebody out there as soon as we can to get the floor sanded and repolished. And they got an expert out, and they worked out that they couldn't just do a few boards, that they had to do a rather big area so it wasn't so obvious. And that's what they did. They did around about, 8 square meters of flooring to overcome that issue. I didn't have to ask them to do it. There was no pressure on them for it, but that was a moment of truth. So it's how they handled themselves that really created a positive customer experience. Same if you're running late. I remember when I had my transport company, I always told my drivers that if you are running late, I want you to tell me, not the customer. Okay, so I could ring the customer and say, I just want to let you know that your driver is running late. Okay, it just enhances the customer experience. When a customer is taking delivery, you've probably already experienced this when you've got a new car. Some dealerships will put the big cover over the car with a big bow on the bonnet. Maybe they'll have an archway over it saying congratulations, they'll take your photos, they'll make it a whole experience. That is what I'm talking about, moments of truth. And every single business has them. So what I want you to do is sit down and write down a list of at least 10 moments of truth in your business where you have customer interaction that is really vitally important, and make sure that you systemize what happens in those moments. All right, so just to summarize, customer experience is a very, very important, and creating that wow factor has never been more important than it is today. It is so easy for an unhappy customer or a happy customer to tell many other people about their experience. You want to make sure that you are looking after yourself and your business and your team by providing an amazing experience, so you don't have to deal with negative reviews left online. That very, very, very can be very demotivating for you and your team, and especially if it could be something that's very simply fixed just by addressing and training people around customer experience. Now, if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and also down below in the comments, let me know what it is that you do for customer experience. I'd love to learn from what it is that you're currently doing in your business, and others can learn from that as well. Anyway, until next time, take care. Make sure that you go back, watch some of the previous videos as well. And we've got videos coming out every single week. So hit that subscribe button, and see you later.